What will Boston really look like in 2520? After 5 centuries of rising seas, biotech revolution, and radical urban evolution. And what will it feel like to live in a city shaped by living architecture, underwater heritage districts, and climate-engineered atmospheres? A world we'll never see, but can experience today. In this video, I use advanced AI tools combined with sea level rise projections, biotechnology trend analysis, and sustainable urban planning studies to reconstruct how Boston might actually look 500 years from now. Shifting perspective, exploring transformed landmarks, and moving through a future that doesn't exist yet, but could. And if you stick around until the end, I'll show you these same locations as they look right now in 2025, so you can see exactly how far Boston will transform in 5 centuries. Some landmarks adapt, others disappear beneath the waves. The contrast will shock you. This is the Harbor BioMesh in 2520, where the old Boston waterfront once stood. Instead of land, a living network of bioengineered coral structures extends across the submerged historic downtown, creating a 3-dimensional underwater city visible through transparent pressure domes. Buildings don't sit on foundations anymore. They're grown from calcium carbonate frameworks that breathe, filter water, and generate oxygen. The old aquarium district, now 40 meters below sea level, has become the anchor point for vertical neighborhoods that rise from the ocean floor to breach the surface. This transformation began in the 2190s, when rising seas forced Boston to abandon traditional flood barriers. Marine bioengineers discovered how to program coral DNA to grow architectural structures, creating self-healing buildings that actually thrive in salt water. By 2300, the entire harbor had been reimagined as a symbiotic ecosystem where humans and marine life coexist in the same spaces. By 2520, over 850,000 people live in these biomesh towers. Transparent corridors snake between structures, offering views of fish schools, kelp forests, and bioluminescent gardens that illuminate the depths. The water itself is cleaner than it's been in 600 years, filtered by billions of engineered organisms embedded in every surface. It's strange to think that right now in 2025, this is just open harbor water with boats passing through. In 500 years, it will be someone's apartment with floor-to-ceiling views of an underwater world we can barely imagine. Moving up to the surface level. By 2520, Fenway Park has evolved into something the Red Sox of our era would never recognize. A massive atmospheric dome spanning 12 square blocks, maintaining pre-climate change temperatures and humidity levels inside. The original baseball diamond still exists, preserved under layers of transparent biopolymer, but it's now surrounded by vertical forests that climb 200 meters into the dome's apex. These aren't decorative, they're functional carbon processors that scrub CO2 from the air and generate breathable oxygen for the 60,000 residents living in the surrounding residential rings. The transformation happened gradually. By 2180, summer temperatures in Boston regularly exceeded 45 degrees, 113 degrees, and making outdoor activities impossible for months. Engineers began experimenting with localized climate control, and Fenway, with its bowl-like structure, became the perfect testing ground. The first small dome went up in 2205. By 2350, it had expanded to cover the entire neighborhood. Inside, the temperature stays at a constant 20 degrees, 72 degrees, year-round. Rain is scheduled for Tuesday and Friday afternoons, pulled from atmospheric moisture and distributed through a network of aerial channels. Children play in parks that feel like pre-2100 Boston, experiencing seasons that their great-great-grandparents took for granted but that no longer exist in the wild. From our perspective in 2025, controlling the weather inside a dome sounds like science fiction. But the seeds are already being planted, in climate models, in experimental biodomes, in the desperate need to preserve livable spaces as the planet transforms. This is the Freedom Trail in 2520, but you can't walk it anymore, at least not physically. The original cobblestone path, along with most of historic downtown, rests beneath 12 meters of seawater. Instead, the trail exists as a neural memory corridor, a a multi-sensory holographic pathway that reconstructs revolutionary-era Boston with such precision that visitors can smell the salt air of 1775, hear authentic accents, and touch surfaces that feel real, but exist only as organized light and haptic feedback. The shift began in the 2240s when preservationists realized that physical landmarks couldn't survive the rising Atlantic. Rather than let history vanish, Boston invested in neural mapping technology, scanning every brick, every doorframe, every scratch on Paul Revere's workshop before the waters came. By 2300, the entire downtown had been digitized at the molecular level. By 2520, the memory corridor attracts 5 million visitors annually. They descend into underwater viewing stations, put on neural interfaces, and step into 1776. School groups experience the Boston Tea Party as if they're actually there. Historians can examine architectural details lost to flood and time. The past becomes more accessible in 2520 than it was when the building still stood. Imagine standing in Old North Church in 2520, seeing lanterns hung for Paul Revere's ride, knowing that the actual church dissolved into the Atlantic 200 years ago, but experiencing it more vividly than any museum could offer today. Now let me show you something even more radical across the river. By 2520, the MIT campus has become the Consciousness Research Complex, a sprawling network of laboratories where the boundary between human and artificial intelligence has essentially dissolved. The original dome still stands, now encased in a lattice of living neural tissue that processes data using biological computation. Buildings don't house researchers anymore. They are researchers, thinking structures made from hybridized human neurons and silicon matrices that can solve problems in minutes that would take conventional computers centuries. This evolution began in the 2150s when MIT's AI lab made the breakthrough in biodigital integration. By 2200, the first building-scale consciousness came online. By 2520, the entire Cambridge biotech corridor operates as a distributed intelligence network, with human collaborators interfacing directly through neural links rather than keyboards. The complex hosts 40,000 human AI research teams working on challenges we can't even articulate yet. Consciousness uploading, planetary-scale climate repair, even communication with potential non-terrestrial intelligence. The buildings themselves participate in the research, their crystalline facades pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that represent active thinking processes. The people who will actually work here in 2520 aren't even born yet. From where we sit in 2025, this seems impossible. But MIT has always been about pushing impossible boundaries. In 500 years, the impossible just becomes infrastructure. This is Logan Airport in 2520. Except it's no longer an airport in any sense we'd recognize. It's an orbital gateway, a massive electromagnetic launch system that accelerates passenger pods to escape velocity without rockets, sending 200,000 people to orbital stations, lunar colonies, and Mars settlements every day. The old runways, submerged under 8 meters of Atlantic water, now serve as aquaculture farms, feeding the surrounding districts. The transformation began in the 2280s, when traditional jet travel became untenable due to atmospheric instability and carbon restrictions. Engineers repurposed Logan's geography, its position on the harbor, into a launch corridor. By 2350, the first electromagnetic rails were operational. By 2520, it's the busiest Earth-to-orbit facility on the East Coast. Passengers don't board planes anymore, they enter acceleration pods that get magnetically propelled along a 40-kilometer track extending out over the Atlantic. Within 90 seconds, they reach orbital velocity. No fuel, no emissions. Just physics and engineering on a scale that would seem like magic to us. It's hard to imagine that right now, in 2025, Logan is full of jet engines and kerosene. In 5 centuries, the entire concept of flying through atmosphere to get to space will seem as primitive as horse-drawn carriages seem to us today. Fast forward to the heart of what used to be downtown. By 2520, Beacon Hill exists as a vertical heritage cluster, a kilometer-high structure that preserves the neighborhood's original architecture by stacking it skyward. The bottom 300 meters are reconstructed 19th-century townhouses, brick facades and gas lamps, perfectly preserved, but lifted into the air to escape the flooding that claimed the original foundations. Above that, modern residential layers blend historic aesthetics with living technology. Walls that clean air, windows that harvest solar energy, roofs that collect and purify rainwater. This preservation method emerged in the 2210s, when Bostonians refused to let their architectural heritage drown. Engineers developed heritage extraction, carefully disassembling historic buildings, scanning every detail, and reconstructing them in climate-controlled vertical districts. By 2300, entire neighborhoods had been relocated skyward. By 2520, residents live in what feels like historic Beacon Hill, walking cobblestone streets and past brick townhouses, except they're 600 meters in the air. The original street grid is preserved, just rotated 90 degrees. At night, the gas lamps still glow, powered by modern fusion cells designed to mimic 1880s aesthetics. None of us will ever walk through Beacon Hill in 2520, but the people who do will experience a version of our past that we're actively losing in our present, saved by elevation and innovation we can barely conceive. This is the Charles River in 2520, transformed into a thermal regulation channel that controls Boston's microclimate. The river is wider now, 800 meters across in some sections, and 50 meters deep, engineered to circulate subsurface cold water pumped from deep Atlantic currents. Along both banks, crystalline heat exchange towers pull warmth from the summer air and transfer it to underground storage caverns, then release it during winter months, keeping the city at habitable temperatures year-round. The transformation began in the 2170s when Boston's summers became lethal. The Charles, already widened by rising seas merging it with flood zones, was reimagined as a giant circulatory system for the entire metropolitan area. By 2240, the first deep water pumps were operational. By 2520, the system moves 500 million gallons per hour, acting as the city's central temperature regulator. On summer afternoons, when external temperatures hit 50 degrees, 122 degrees, the areas near the Charles stay at a comfortable 28 degrees, 82 degrees. Residents flock to riverside parks where mist generators create localized microclimates. The water itself is too cold for swimming, maintained at 8 degrees, 46 degrees for maximum thermal efficiency, but the cooling effect radiates outward for kilometers. The Charles we see today in 2025 is a picturesque river where people kayak and sail. In 2520, it will be the mechanical heart keeping 3 million people alive through summers that would otherwise be uninhabitable. By 2520, the Seaport has become a vertical fusion district, home to 200 compact fusion reactors stacked in a single 2-kilometer tower that powers the entire Boston metropolitan region. Each reactor is the size of a shipping container, generating clean energy through controlled hydrogen fusion. Technology that was experimental in the 2020s, but became standard infrastructure by 2300. The tower is covered in adaptive solar skin that supplements the fusion cores, and its base extends 100 meters underwater, where thermal vents disperse excess heat into deep ocean currents. This energy revolution happened because it had to. By 2200, traditional power grids had failed under the strain of climate control, desalination, and vertical farming demands. Boston's engineering universities cracked viable fusion scaling, and by 2280, the first Seaport reactor came online. By 2520, the entire district operates as one massive power plant, but residents live and work inside the same structure, in soundproofed neighborhoods wrapped around the reactor cores. The tower generates 800 gigawatts, enough to power Boston and export surplus energy to New York and Montreal via superconducting cables. No emissions, no waste beyond easily managed helium, just abundant clean energy that makes the megacity possible. It's wild to think that right now in 2025, the Seaport is mostly luxury condos and tech offices. In 500 years, this spot will be the beating heart that keeps millions of lives running, technology we're just beginning to understand, turned into the foundation of everything. This is Boston Common in 2520, encased in a 400-meter transparent biosphere that maintains the last surviving ecosystem of pre-climate change New England. Inside, maple trees turn red in October, Snow falls in December. Spring arrives with cherry blossoms in April. Squirrels, birds, and insects that went extinct in the wild by 2300 thrive in this carefully maintained time capsule. The original park paths are still there, worn smooth by 700 years of footsteps, now walked by people who have never experienced natural seasons outside a controlled environment. The decision to preserve the common came in 2215, when Bostonians realized that within a generation, no one would remember what their city's climate used to feel like. Engineers built the Biosphere using the same technology developed for Mars habitats, creating a sealed environment where temperature, humidity, and even day length could be precisely controlled to match historical patterns. By 2520, the Common serves as both memorial and education center. Children visit on school trips to experience autumn leaves, something that no longer happens in the wild Northeast. Scientists study the preserved ecosystem to understand what was lost. And every evening, residents come to walk paths that feel like the Boston their ancestors knew, a living memory of what the planet used to be. We take the Common for granted now, in 2025. A nice park in the center of the city. In 500 years, it will be the only place for 1,000 kilometers where people can experience the climate that we, right now, experience every day without thinking twice. By 2520, the North End has transformed into a vertical aquaculture network, a series of 500-meter towers where 80% of Boston's protein is produced in stacked saltwater farms. Each tower contains 200 levels of bioengineered kelp forests, shellfish beds, and fish habitats, producing more seafood per cubic meter than the entire Atlantic fishing industry of the 21st century. The towers are designed to mimic the old North End aesthetic, facades covered in ceramic tiles arranged in patterns that echo historic Italian architecture, but inside, they're highly efficient food factories. This shift began in the 2190s, when ocean acidification and overfishing collapsed global wildfish populations. Boston, with its biotech expertise and seafood culture, pioneered vertical aquaculture, growing food in controlled saltwater systems rather than harvesting declining oceans. By 2280, the North End towers were producing 400,000 tons of protein annually. By 2520, that number has quintupled. The fish raised here have never seen open ocean. They're descendants of wild species, but optimized for density, growth rate, and nutritional value. The kelp forests absorb CO2 from the air and produce oxygen as a byproduct. Waste is processed into fertilizer for the adjacent vertical farms. Nothing is wasted. Everything cycles. It's fascinating to think that right now, the North End is famous for Italian restaurants serving wild-caught seafood. In 500 years, seafood will still be the specialty, but it will come from towers where every organism is tracked, measured, and optimized for a world where wild oceans can no longer sustain human appetites. Now let me bring you back to 2025. Back to the Boston we actually live in. Let's compare these future projections to how these exact same locations look today, right now, in our present. The contrast is staggering. Right now, in 2025, Boston Harbor is open water with boats, ferries, and the occasional cruise ship passing through. The waterfront is lined with brick buildings, piers, and tourist attractions sitting at sea level. By 2520, this entire area will be submerged under 40 meters of Atlantic water, replaced by bioengineered coral towers housing 850,000 people in an underwater city. What we see as empty harbor will become vertical neighborhoods with views into an ocean ecosystem we can't yet imagine. Right now, Fenway Park is an open-air baseball stadium where we sit in summer heat to watch the Red Sox. It's exposed to weather, to seasons, to the changing climate. By 2520, this exact spot will be covered by a 12-block atmospheric dome maintaining pre-climate change temperatures, with the original diamond preserved beneath layers of biopolymer and surrounded by 200-meter vertical forests. What we experience as normal outdoor space will become a climate-controlled sanctuary where children experience seasons that no longer exist in the wild. Right now in 2025, you can walk the Freedom Trail, touching actual brick and cobblestone that dates back centuries. The buildings are real. The history is physical. By 2520, the entire original trail will rest under 12 meters of seawater, accessible only through neural memory corridors that reconstruct revolutionary Boston as multi-sensory holographic experiences. What we walk past casually today will be underwater ruins, experienced through technology that doesn't exist yet. Right now, MIT is a collection of buildings where humans do research using computers and lab equipment. Buildings are separate from the people inside them. By 2520, the campus will be a consciousness research complex where buildings themselves think, made from hybridized neural tissue and silicon that processes data biologically. What we see as inert structures will become living intelligences that collaborate with humans through direct neural interfaces. The researchers living here in 2520 won't recognize what we call a university. Right now, in 2025, Logan is full of jet engines, runways and planes burning kerosene to lift people into the sky. It's loud, it produces emissions, and it's limited by atmospheric flight. By 2520, Logan will be an electromagnetic orbital gateway, launching 200,000 people daily to space stations and other planets without rockets or fuel, just physics. The runways we see today will be underwater aquaculture farms. What we think of as advanced aviation will seem as primitive as steam engines. Right now, Beacon Hill is a historic neighborhood at street level, brick townhouses with gas lamps on sloping cobblestone streets. It's charming, walkable, and firmly on the ground. By 2520, this entire neighborhood will exist as a vertical heritage cluster, the original architecture preserved and stacked skyward in a kilometer-high structure to escape flooding. What we walk through at ground level today will be reconstructed 600 meters in the air, the same streets and buildings just rotated 90 degrees to survive a world where the original location is underwater. Right now, Boston Common is an open park where we experience actual weather, natural seasons, and the changing climate in real time. Trees turn color because it's October, not because someone programmed them to. By 2520, the Common will be encased in a 400-meter biosphere, the last place for 1,000 kilometers, where pre-climate change New England seasons still happen, where snow still falls in winter and leaves still turn in autumn. What we take for granted today, experiencing natural seasons, will be a rare privilege requiring a controlled environment in 500 years. We'll never stand in Boston in 2520. We'll never see these transformations with our own eyes. But maybe, through reconstructions like this, we can glimpse the city our distant descendants might inherit, shaped by choices we're making right now. Thanks for stepping into the future with me. Let me know in the comments what city or year you'd like to explore next, or what future technology you think I should investigate. Until next time.